Statistics show that 1 in 10 men globally experience depression or anxiety. Yet, less than half of those men seek treatment or mental health support. Today, Makhosi Sibanda, who is the founder of the Men's Conference podcast, joins us to unpack the various challenges that hinder men from accessing the necessary services that they need for their well-being. So as we're starting, can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Makhosi Sibanda. By training or by calling, I'm a journalist. I've worked in the media for so long. Also, I've developed a passion for campaigning for men's mental health, and I've been doing this through my platform called the Men's Conference podcast, where I just curate issues, conversational issues, social issues around men, mental health, their well-being, physical and emotionally.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we get into today's discussion on men's mental health issues, could you help us have an appreciation of why it's important to specifically focus on men?
Okay, so this concept, I really thought about it back in 2020 during COVID-19. That's when I thought perhaps there's a missing link in terms of men being intentional about what they feel emotionally, psychologically, as well as like physically, but everything else relates to the mind. That's why I thought about that. This perspective of men's mental health is sort of like make them a bit intentional about these things, because sometimes they go ignored for so long and someone somewhere crumbles not knowing that it's because of this lack of intentionality about them being healthy mental wise.
You have already touched on the crisis probably that they find themselves in, even though they're not probably aware in that particular time. What ways do you think that some men are using to cope with these pressures?
Okay, I can talk about the ways. Firstly, the ways are not really popular. We don't even know that there are such spaces for men to express their vulnerabilities. It's taken for granted that when we meet as brothers, as friends, we begin to open up. Sometimes we don't, because we feel could be judged, for instance, because of the societal expectations. So what I've been trying to do through the podcast and through other social conversations through WhatsApp is to say whenever men meet, it's a safe space for brothers to talk about whatever that they feel. Because being vulnerable is not a common idea, as men, as brothers, we are not allowed to be vulnerable, trying to die kind and stuff. But we want to have as much spaces as we can where I'm able to tell the next brother, from their shubala, let's travel tonight, and what can you do for me? Or, you put that into the next brother or the next ear. Like they always say, I don't want to sound too cliche, but a problem shared, the problem solved. But sometimes as men, we don't have these communal solutions, these standard ways of doing things. You find people, they hide. Sometimes not that they are not feeling okay, but maybe they are unemployed and they cannot come outside and tell, I just lost my job and I can't afford to do A, B, C, D. I can't come for example, our common lunch every Friday. I can't afford that. So those spaces for vulnerability are not really comfortable, but we wish it could be a thing where brothers frequently come and talk about their issues. The reason why they should come and do that is because we are not saying everyone has the solution or the space itself has a solution, but it's sort of like crowdsourcing the solution.
I'm actually reminded of this space that I was once in, where young people were being capacitated on issues of consent, and one thing that came out was the fact that men also are raped. But now the feedback from the men that were there was in laughter, and this just leads me to ask you to say, how can the elderly, be able to impart the necessary knowledge needed for young men to appreciate that issues of mental health, issues of abuse also exist?
What you are saying is a situation where some of these injustices are normalized. For example, a girl would know if they are touched inappropriately, mainly because their mom, their aunt, their grandmother have told them that if someone comes and touches you on the breast area, it's inappropriate. If someone comes and touches you in a certain area, it's inappropriate. But for guys, even growing up, I didn't know what that meant in relation to a boy. What is it that is inappropriate? Mainly because it's a societal norm that a boy is just a boy. So a boy had been ignored for a long time. But then coming back to your question, I think we need now to sort of like empower the old school, because these are the guys that raise us, and in turn we also raise our sons, and our sons are going to raise their own sons. So if the knowledge is out there, if there are conversations around that, when I get home now to my two boys, I'll be able to tell them, if someone does this to you, it's inappropriate. You understand? If someone says this to you, it's not appropriate. You need to come and tell me, or go and tell your mom, or go and tell someone who's looking after you at the time. So it begins from a point of knowing that, and then doing the right thing after. But as long as there is no awareness of that, it becomes performative.
From what you're saying, I'm realizing that mental health issues do not necessarily have to do with the emotions, but financial issues as well, particularly for men who are considered as providers. So how should support for them look like so that they are able, to contribute well in the community, be it their families or in the community at large?
Okay, so some of the conversations, they don't really border around me being emotionally okay, but also financially okay. So the idea is these conversations also tend to lean on how I can become socially better or financially better. So we're always thinking about how can guys best collaborate. I'm part of a mission where it's about 10 of us want to contribute small monies to buy, for example, goods. I'm not saying we're going to buy goods, but so that we're able to have a fallback. So as you may know, this economy is pretty much like tough. There are no jobs. If ever there are jobs, the income is sort of like, so we want people to get to that point where besides all those things that are happening, you can also leverage on yourself and your connections. You need to also to sort of like crowdsource these ideas, because in a tough economy like this, there are no free funds anyway, unless maybe you leverage on a huge network where you can even have a club or some kind of something that gives you extra revenue. If not, the idea is also being part of a network that can yield for you within the specific expertise that you are in. To say I'm in a network where I know once I need my tires replaced, I know who to call.
Yes.
When they need something that I'm good at, I know they're going to call me.
I think, it's interesting to note that now in the digital age, with social media, there are a lot of social norms and stereotypes that are continuously being perpetuated. So how can men then be able to balance that whatever is happening online is different and they shouldn't act on it as in comparison with what's happening in their life?
Okay. Social media has to balance with the social currents or social reality on the ground. I've heard a lot about endodamas.
Yes, it's taken that I must.
Okay, but in reality, do we see men doing whatever that is the expectation in terms of social media? Most of the times the answer is no. So it's about individuals also looking around and balancing what's being said vis-a-vis the reality. Is it possible? Is it achievable? Because there's social pressures that come from social media are pretty much real. But we need to also ask ourselves if that is real. We need to ask ourselves, is that practical?
As we're wrapping up this conversation, what is it that you can say, especially, now with some challenges, including drug and substance abuse, and some challenges or effects of mental health issues, rather, that lead to suicide? What is it that you can say in terms of how best can young men be able to take care of themselves and their mental state?
The idea that is accessible to most people is telling the next person. Within our situation also, I would say seek professional help for those who can afford. But sometimes it's not readily available. But I understand it is available. But before, you need to sort of like be self-aware that now I am not okay. I need to speak to the next person. That self-awareness, 1, 2, seeking help or knocking at the right door. Sometimes you may not know exactly the right door to knock. So tell the next person that can happen. What has happened or what is happening now, a lot of people are running away from the realities. Substance, alcohol abuse, it's now rife. That also in turn lead to maybe say other things like GPV, other things that are pretty much extreme like suicide. And what is also happening is that now some of our psychiatric wards are full. Speak of Ingucheni, they are grappling with the high numbers of people who come there reporting all these psychosocial, psychomental issues. And there has to be, a breakthrough solution. But for now, people need to be, self-aware so that they can also be intentional about seeking help.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Makhosi, for joining us today and for sharing, such knowledgeable and insightful information with us.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation, and yeah.
Thank you. As you have heard from the conversation, that social norms are part of the problem and part of the reason why we have men who do not seek mental health support in time. We hope that with this episode, you have learned what it is that we need to change as a society. Please do join us on our next episode as we dive deeper into conversations that ensure sustainability of communities.